اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم والعن أعداءهم وارزقنا شفاعتهم في الدنيا والآخرة. زيارة عاشوراء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوسيم. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم. ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان. ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبا. ولعن الله ابن مرجان. ولعن الله عمرو بن سعد. ولعن الله شمرا. ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتاله. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم. وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فاسألوا الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابيبكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقام هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفر. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة وبدل الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين عليه السلام وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ به أولا ثم لعن الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجدة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مسابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم الرزقية. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا هجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. صلوات. I'd like to request Sheikh Ahsan Ahmedi to recite the Majlis. Please recite aloud salawat.
Brothers and sisters, جميعا سلام عليكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه عرضك ضوءا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Recite a second salawat. As usual, the second salawat is the lowest one possible. For the previous nights, we've been talking about the topic of understanding the logic behind the movement of Abdullah Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam during the Muharram. We made the connections between how we that live today can actually get a better understanding of what was the reason and what was the logic behind this movement. We mentioned very briefly that there is a direct connection between every person's action to how they think, and from how they think to how they feel and what are their goals and objectives in lives. Also, we talked about the different logics that are available, right? Based on one category, we talked about three different logics. One was a defensive move, right? Such as, for example, if someone has a very precious item and he doesn't want anybody to get, close to him. And then second one was the logic of someone who tries to be peaceful at all time at any cost, right? He always tries to find the easy way out, as we say. And the third one, which we talked about it in depth last night, was the logic of martyrdom, or the logic of sacrifice, which we mentioned that in this logic there is no more self-protection in a sense, meaning that all we care about is how to get the goal that we are after, how to get the objectives that we are after. So inshallah tonight I will talk about this logic a little bit more and try to make a comparison and then try to see how would this logic play a role in the companions of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Recite another salawat. There is a sermon from Abu Abdullah Hussein when he actually comes across Farazdaq. Who is Farazdaq? He's one of the famous poets of the Arab. And then this happens as Imam Hussein is leaving the Mecca for Kufa, and Farazdaq is coming from Kufa towards Mecca. So at the beginning of the way, they actually meet. So Farazdaq comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, and then he says, لقيني الحسين عليه السلام في منصرف من الكوفة. I was leaving the Kufa and I was going towards Mecca when I actually came across Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. فقال ما وراك يا أبا فراس. So Imam Hussein asked me, "Oh Aba Faras, what's been happening behind you? What's been happening in Kufa? What do you have? What kind of news do you have from the city of Kufa?" قلت أصدقك. I told Imam, "Do you want the truth? Should I give you the news right in the front? No, no, nothing in it." قال عليه السلام الصدق أريد. Yes, I want the truth. Tell me what's happening in Kufa. قلت أما القلوب فمعك. I told him, the hearts of the people of Kufa are with you. وأما السيوف فمع بني أمية. But their swords are accompanying the Umayyas. Their heart likes you. Their heart, likes to be part of you. Their heart likes to actually join you and be with you. But when it comes to the topic of swords, they go the other way. They go for the wealth. They go for the rewards. They go to join the Umayyas. وَالنَّصْرُ مِنْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And the support will be from Allah the Almighty. قَالَ مَا أَرَاكَ إِلَّا صَدَقْتَ. Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam tells him, MashaAllah, the one that you mentioned, it is actually the truth. There is nothing except this, and this is the only truth. الناس عبيد الدنيا. Then Imam tells us his famous sermon about talking about the people of that time, which he says, people are the slaves and the servants of this dunya. وَالدِّينُ لَغْبٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. And religion, faith, being loyal to the faith is just like a game to them. It's just like chewing a gum. It's like having a candy in your mouth. So you have it as long as you're enjoying and benefiting the taste, right? The sweetness, the variety of it, you keep it in your mouth. Once you're done with it, you just toss it out. يَحُطُونَهُ مَا دَرَّتْ بِهِ مَعَايِشُهُمْ. So as long as their material funds is set and they have no problems, they keep their religion. They'll be faithful. They'll be Muslim, and they will talk all this stuff about Islam. But فَإِذَا مُحِّسُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّتْ دَيَّانُهُ. The minute the test comes, the minute a hardship comes in, the minute they get stuck choosing between the dunya and the akhirah, right? As soon as God hits them with one test, they fail. They go and they pick dunya over the akhirah. Then Imam Hussein alayhi starts talking to Farazdaq more, and then the Farazdaq asks him a question. He says, "O son of the messenger, if you know this, if you know that the people of Kufa, they're not with you, their heart is with you, but their sword is against you. So more likely they're going to stand in front of you, they're going to fight you, they're going to confront you. Are you still going to go for the Kufa?" Why? He couldn't understand why Imam Hussein is so persistent of actually continuing his journey towards the Kufa. So he says, how come you still continue your journey, even though you know that they have already killed your cousin Muslim ibn Aqil? So Imam Hussein alayhi recites the Fatiha and asks Allah Almighty to have mercy upon the soul of the Muslim ibn Aqil. And then he recites this poem, and then he says that, Muslim ibn Aqil, he did what he was supposed to do, and he is in good shape now, he is in good hands, but I have a responsibility that I have to deliver as well, and that's what I'm going to. Then Imam recites 3 verses. وَإِن تَكُنِ الدُّنْيَا تُعَدُّ نَفِيسَةً فَدَارُ ثَوَابِ اللَّهِ أَعْلَى وَأَمْبَلُ. Meaning, if the dunya is being considered as a valuable and a precious asset, then the realm, the world of Allah's rewards, right? The world of the spiritual rewards and recognition is far, far, far more greater and noble than this dunya. Meaning, if you just look at this dunya as something very valuable to you, that you do not want to give it up, imagine how, greater will be the spiritual world. Just to give you a comparison, when we are living in this dunya, right, we can only be, at a specific time, at a specific place, right? We cannot be in 2 places at the same time because we are bounded within the laws of physics. If you're in the majlis, you cannot be home at the same time watching TV, right? If you're in the majlis, you cannot be home, playing games or studying. But what about in the spiritual realm? Once we leave this physics and this physical part aside, then the sky is the limit. Give you another example is the way that we dream, right? In the dreams, sometimes we have, these clear dreams that we actually remember them, right? So you can be in any place at any time within an instance, right? You don't have to actually walk, you don't have to work for it. The minute you think, you will be in a second place. Or even right now, you can just close your eyes and think you'll be in Mecca. You close your eyes and think you'll be in Karbala, for example. You think you'll be in Najaf. So this comparison when we make, it's a difference between this dunya and the realm of Barzakh, the middle world, which we go inshallah after this dunya. You see how different it is? And that's why they say if you want to make the comparison, it's like, for example, losing a ring in an infinite desert, right? The ring will be the dunya, the infinite desert will be the alam al-barzakh, the middle world. And then the same comparison between the middle world and the qiyamah. The barzakh, comparing to the qiyamah, it is as if you lose a ring in an infinite desert, right? Desert, comparing to the qiyamah. So just imagine if people go for the dunya and say, well, I want to get rich, I want to become famous, I want to move up the ladder, I want to be someone very popular. If it's only the rewards that they're looking for, if it's only the personal interest that they're looking for, imagine how great will be the rewards of the hereafter. Then Imam alayhi salatu wasalam continues and says, وَإِن تَكُنِ الْأَبْدَانُ لِلْمَوْتِ أَنْشِئَتْ فَقَتْلُ امْرِئٍ بِالسَّيْفِ فِي اللَّهِ أَفْضَلُ. And if the bodies of people have been created, right, and have been destined for death, meaning that every single person that we see, it is destined to death, right? It's no brainer. You're all going to die one day, right, sooner or later. Then we should be aware that getting killed with the sword on the path of Allah is much better. Meaning, if we are going to die, then getting killed while fighting on the path of Allah is way better than just dying, for example, for no reason. وَإِن تَكُنِ الْأَرْزَاقُ قِسْمًا مُقَدَّرًا أَقِلَّةُ حِرْصِ الْمَرْءِ فِي الْكَسْبِ أَجْمَلُ. So if the provisions of the creatures, right, it's all been portioned and it's all been destined and it's all been predetermined, then it is actually nice to see people being less greedy about what they're about to receive. Because we see a lot of people that they're not just happy with the portion that they receive in one day. And then they keep on trying harder and harder. And this being greedy actually gets them in trouble in a lot of places. Instead of being patient, they try to make a fast move, try to be smart about it, and they end up, for example, making a big mistake. Instead of waiting, for example, for a traffic light to change, they'll speed up and then they get to accident. Instead of, for example, waiting for everything to fall in its right and proper channels, they try to go, under the table, and then they end up, losing more money at the end. There is a very interesting story here. It's from the time of Harun al-Rashid. You guys know Harun, he was one of those, I would say, killers of the Abbasids, the Khalifas. So he actually lived during the year 170 Hijri, 170, from 170 to 175, around that time. So from the time of the Holy Prophets till the year 170 Hijri, it's about 150 years difference, right? But Harun, being the king, right? He says, I'm gonna I want to find someone who has heard a hadith, a saying from the Holy Prophet himself. And I want him to come to my palace and tell me that hadith himself. So the guards, they have to do what he says. They go out, they start searching to find a person who has heard the hadith directly from the Holy Prophet. Now, 150 years is not, a short time. So they search everywhere, right? For a couple of days, a couple of weeks, they cannot find someone until they find one person. And this person, he's so old and so fragile in a way that he actually lives in a basket. He cannot move. He has lost all of his physical abilities. He's barely able to breathe. He doesn't eat. So basically, imagine a basket and, a bunch of bones and a little skin, has been put in the basket. That's how he's living. So they find him and then they bring him to palace. Harun gets really excited and really happy. He says, okay, bring him forward. Let me hear what he's got to say. They take him to Harun. Harun asks him, did you actually see the Holy Prophet yourself? He says, yes. I was very young, very, very young, when my father took my hand, and one day we went to the Holy Prophet, and that was the only time that I saw the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then Harun asked him, did he actually tell you something on that day as well, or did you just go to visit him? He says, yes. He told me, يَشِيبُ ابْنُ آدَمَ وَتَشُبُّ مَعَهُ خَسْلَتَانِ الْحِرْصُ وَطُولُ الْأَمَلِ. Holy Prophet told me that humanity, the mankind, gets old. As he gets older, two characters becomes younger within him. Number one, al-hirs. Number two, tul al-amal. Number one, greed and being greedy. Number two, long wishes. Harun becomes very happy, and he being unjust king, he gives a bag full of gold and coin as a reward to this old fella, right? The guards come in and they try to take him out. As they're about to exit the door, exit the gates, he just barely raises his volume, his sound, and then he says, I have to say one more thing to Harun. The guards say, hey, he's the king. It's not that easy to get hold of him. He says, well, no other choice. You have to take me back. I'm not going to let you take me out of here. The guards bring him back to Harun. Harun asks him, what is it? What do you want? He says, I want to ask Harun if is this reward that you have given me, this bag of golden coin, is this like a one-time deal or is it annually? Harun starts laughing and then he says, صدق ابن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يشيب ابن آدم وتشب معه خصلتان الحرص وطول الأمل. Harun starts laughing and says, indeed, the Holy Prophet has said the truth. The mankind, the humanity gets old. As he gets older, two characters becomes young within him. One being greedy, the second having long wishes. Then he continues, he says, this guy, he barely have enough juice in the tank to make it to the door. And he's asking whether the reward is going to be a one-time deal or is it going to be repeated on a yearly basis. What is he going to do even with this, with all of these coins? So he sends them off and he says, no, this is a one-time deal. Try to invest it in good property. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam continues, وَإِن تَكُنِ الْأَرْزَاقُ قِسْمًا مُقَدَّرًا أَقِلَّةُ حِرْصِ الْمَرْءِ فِي الْكَسْبِ أَجْمَلُ. So if we all know that our portion of rizq, our portion of ruzi, right, is predetermined. And when we say rizq and ruzi, when we say provision, when we say sustenance, it doesn't mean only, for example, money, right? It involves money, it involves knowledge, it involves, for example, a good kid, it involves a good spouse, right? It involves a good community, it involves, having access to a good majlis, to a good, masjid. All of this is part of the rizq. We cannot just say rizq equals to the amount of income that we need, we have in one day. No. Income is part of it. Income is part of it. Actually, knowledge is a higher version of, your rizq. So Imam says, if you know it's already been predetermined for you, right? Then why would you be so greedy, often trying to receive more and more and more on every day? Get what it's been predetermined for you and be happy with it, spend it well, and Allah Almighty will give you more. As long as you're happy with what you get and you spend it well, I guarantee that you will actually get more from Allah Almighty. Because it's sort of like a test, as we talk about. He gives you, for example, $100 and he sees what would you do. Then he gives you more and then he takes a look at you. Then he gives you more. Sometimes he gives you less, right? Tries to see how would you manage this situation. Would you just turn around and start cursing everybody, say, wow, today I made, for example, $50 less? Or you'll be patient about it. Then Imam continues, وَإِن تَكُنِ الْأَمْوَالُ لِلتَّرْكِ جَمْعُهَا فَمَا بَالُ مَتْرُوكٍ بِهِ الْمَرْءُ يَبْخَلُ. If the end of all of this saving and gathering of this wealth and this fame and this power and this knowledge, if the end of it, the destiny of it, the last of it, right, is to leave it all behind as we're going to depart this world, then فَمَا بَالُ مَتْرُوكٍ بِهِ الْمَرْءُ يَبْخَلُ. Then what value does an item which will be left behind has that one want to be stingy about? So from two aspects. Number one, if you're going to leave everything alone, what would you be so greedy on actually trying to get it? Number two, now that you have got it, right? Now that you have worked so hard for it, what would you be so stingy of actually giving it away? And actually, we have in some of the maghatat, like the maqtals, which they narrate the whole story of Karbala, that Imam used to recite these verses even on the day of Ashura, just talking about this dunya and how it's tricking all these people just to go for the surface, just to go for the dunya as the dunya, just go for the mundane world, and they have completely forgotten about the hereafter. What does Quran says about dunya? Very interesting. We have this ayah 20 from Surah Al-Hadid. It goes like this. أعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا. Actually, Allah Almighty beautifully describes the dunya in stages according to human's life. He says, be aware that this dunya that everybody's running after it like crazy, it's only 5 stages. Number one, la'ib. What's the meaning of la'ib? La'ib is that, sort of a game and a playing around that you can witness in like very small children. They play around and they don't even know what are they doing, right? They just, for example, whatever they see, they pick it up, they examine it, they try to analyze it, and then they toss it away, right? It's not that they have the intention to play, but all they know is playing. This is called la'ib. Then we have lah. As the kid grows up, he gets to a stage that all he thinks about is trying to have fun and do some sort of activities that will help him to make the time pass by. So there is no reasoning behind it. There is no logic behind it. It's just an activity for the cause of an activity. So if you ask him, what are you doing this? It's like, well, as I said, just to make sure the time passes by, I won't get bored. Just playing around. Then what? He becomes older. Then comes the zina, the adornment, that glory, that looking good, looking sharp, right? If you look around, like if you look at yourself as, you age, you might actually find the relativity of this ayah with yourself. He grows up even more. وَتَفَاخُرٌ بَيْنَكُمْ. Now, after looking good and having the best years of the youth, then he gets to a stage that he starts to talk about himself, right? He has accomplished so much, right, over the years. Now he has reached this stage that he's going to look back and he's going to feel good about himself. He's going to say, well, I have done such and such. I have graduated from such university. I have, for example, worked in such companies. I have so many experiences. I am expert in this field, right? I have been to this place and that place. I have talked to this place. I have a picture with that guy, with this guy. Always talking about themselves and trying to brag about themselves, in comparison with others. Then, as he gets a lot older, right? وَتَكَاثُرٌ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ. Then he hits him that now he has to do what? He has to extend his wealth, he has to extend his family members, he has to extend his children and kids, those who will remember him once he actually departs from this world. كَمَثَلَ غَيْثٍ أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَّارَ نَبَاتُهُ. Quran says this dunya, it is as like a very beautiful garden, right? That actually makes you go, wow. The minute you see it, you go, wow, it is so beautiful, right? And then it makes you like just, it will take you like in a shock mode. You cannot say anything about it, because it's so beautiful. ثُمَّ يَهِيجُ فَتَرَاهُ مُصْفَرًّا. But the same garden